As you can see, we've got the X motor, X axis is tied to the motor, then tied across front to back with one belt, and then to the front of the axis with another belt. This helps ensure that the front and the back, especially during rapid movements, don't get out of sync with each other. The belts keep everything perfectly aligned and tensioned, and don't have any wobble back and forth or lag, for lack of a better way of saying it. As far as the fan on the hot end, I just used some metal safety wire, looped that around. The top loop goes around the brass nut for the filament Bowden tube. The bottom one goes just around the bottom through one of the fins. This seems to hold everything in place pretty nicely. It doesn't move around and allows the fan to spin freely and keeps airflow off the head. I know that some people say to use air blowing down on your print while you're using PLA, but I really haven't had any issues, at least so far. But we'll see. You know, if it changes, then maybe I'll switch out what I've got. I'll have to design a better shroud or something. But you'll notice I used the universal print spool and used the rail mount attached or base for it. That seems to work pretty well, although with where I have the filament extruder, since it comes up from the bottom here, it can be a bit of a tension pull on the spool, but so far so good. It seems to be working. No real issues there. Here for the back end, you can see where I've got the 3D printed bracket for holding the end stops. Although for some reason it doesn't seem to really care about this end stop. It'll let me blow past it. But as far as my home end stops, there's the X and the Z. The Y is actually, let me get around to the other side here. The Y is actually back here on the back portion of the Y rail. What else to show? So yeah, the pulley arrangement for the X. I'm just using this plate that I got from Open Build's parts store. I've got 3 of these, and then one of their motor mount plates, which is very similar to the motor mount plate we got from Cobblebot. So the motor mount plate on that side holds the motor. On this side, it's just 2 pulleys, using their pulley wheel kit, and then using that double stack pulley. That's what allows me to link the front and the back together. I've got one of those double stacks on the motor and one on this pulley. Let's see, what else should I show you guys? I upgraded my wheels, at least for the X-axis. I haven't done the Y, although I'm seriously considering doing the Y. The Z, I'm still on the originals. You don't move up and down that much on Z, so as long as everything is more or less okay, you shouldn't have too many issues. I offset the position of the motors a bit. I may increase that offset over time, since that's kind of how you're gonna do your Z alignment or adjustments, by spinning one motor versus the other to get the bed to change angle a little bit. It's not the greatest setup in the world, but it seems to sort of work. So yeah, that's where I'm at with things. As you can see, it is printing. It's just doing the raft right now. This is printing on top of the Flex 3D. If you look, you can see where I accidentally went a little too far into the bed with the Z, and so it kind of melted it a little bit, but those areas still seem to work okay, so I'm not going to get too worked up over it. So yeah, and right now I'm using Octoprint on a Raspberry Pi 2, and this is my first print using it, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. I still got to figure out how to get the Cura slicer config onto it, so I can let it do all the slicing. But anyway, that's where I'm at. I need to make a case to well, that's tonight's job, is to design a case to print, to put all the electronics in, and hopefully deal with some of this wiring nightmare. I may get rid of the screen altogether, because frankly, between using the Octoprint and the fact that I either am going to use Octoprint or current directly off my laptop, I really don't see a point in having the screen there at all. It's just taking up space and making wiring even messier. So, plus the wires aren't very long, so it's not like I can put the electronics in the back and the control in the front. Still trying to figure out where exactly I'm going to mount the Raspberry Pi, especially for the camera. It'll probably be somewhere in the back here, although I don't exactly know where. Possibly up high over the top of that motor. I don't know. It depends on how long of a cable I can get. I know that Adafruit sells some pretty long cables. You'll also notice I put in the yellow plastic rail striping. That's just something from Open Build's parts store. I think it kind of makes it look nice, but you know, cleans things up and makes it a little more professional. I am thinking about getting their corner squares to put up, and that will raise the whole Z up another 20 millimeters. Not that I really care about the actual extra space, but it'll make the corners much more rigid. I won't have to rely upon these stupid corner pieces, which will make alignment much stronger and better. So yeah, that's where everything lies. And yeah. Also, you'll notice I only have the one print head going. Eventually I'll put the second one back on, but I was trying to simplify things just to get things working. So, so yeah, that's where we are. And hopefully this gives you guys some good info for doing your own. As you can see, I did modify things a bit. You know, my print bed is the only thing on the Z-axis. Everything else rides on top of the frame. Frankly, I think that's a much better way to go, so that you don't have so much weight all being done off these two lead screws and having it all moving around and wobbling and such. But you know, your mileage may vary. So thanks a lot.